next guest is Tina Elrod, and she has written a book called Familiar Stranger, Journal of a Rape Survivor. And I don't want to waste any more time with the introduction. I'd like for her just to tell about her book and about her story. Welcome to the program, Tina.
Thank you.
All right, tell us a little bit in your own words about why you wrote the book and about your experience.
Okay, well, the book came about, I was raped when I was 18 years old by someone who had offered me a ride home, ended up taking me to his home and keeping me throughout the night and raping me throughout the night, threatened to kill me. I thought I was going to die. He ended up taking me back where he took me from the next day, and I immediately had called the police, went to the hospital, did the whole, exam and everything, and was going to press charges. And the first person who was my boyfriend that I confided into what had happened blamed me, said that it was my fault. I should have known what happened, what was going to happen. And so,
was this an abduction, or did you willingly get in the car?
I willingly got into the car.
Because he was going to give you a ride.
He was going to give me a ride.
Did you know him?
No. I was talking to a group of friends. My boyfriend had left me, and he had the only car that we had, and was supposed to come back and hadn't come back. And I was mad, and he heard me talking to a group of my friends about wanting to get home, and he walked up to the group and said, "I know who your boyfriend is. I can give you a ride home." And I was so, my mind was just all, I just wanted to get home and let him have it. And I wasn't aware of my surroundings.
You think that could never happen to me?
Exactly. Okay. And I had been a wild child, and nothing had happened to me. So, I just wasn't expecting it at all. And so, yes, I willingly got into his car. And as we drove, when I told him to turn, he didn't turn. And I knew in that instant that something was wrong. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the way I was raised or what, I just didn't want to cause a scene. I just thought if I just go along with whatever, then this will be over soon and everything will be okay. And that's what I did. And because of the way my boyfriend responded, I felt like everybody was going to respond that way. And then all the memories of him the man telling me he was going to kill me, he knew who I was, he knew where I lived.
He was going to come back and get you.
He was going to come back and get me if I told what he did. And so I dropped it. I called back up, told them I did not want to press charges. I actually went to the shelter that domestic violence prevention has. I stayed there for a couple of weeks just because I was afraid.
Yeah.
And ended up leaving there, and that year, almost a year after that, my boyfriend and I broke up. I stayed here. I'm from Hope originally, but I stayed here. I wouldn't go home. I didn't want, going home would be like failing, and I didn't want to face my family with what all had happened.
Did your family know about the incident?
Some of them did. Some of them did. But I was just going through so much at that time. I was a wild child, very wild child. And teenage years were just horrible. And so I just went through that year, and there were times where I was homeless. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I would sleep in an abandoned house. Wherever I worked, I didn't have a car, but I walked to where I worked and just made enough money to stay in places that, very seedy places.
Were you not afraid that it would happen again?
I don't think that I was afraid. I think that whole year of my life, I think I lived in a state of just numb. Like I just could not believe that this was my life, my childhood wasn't perfect or anything, but I had a loving family, and why I was just so prideful about, I would rather be here than go back to that. I don't know what inside me made me choose that, but I did choose it. And so I managed to get through that year, and my mother ended up coming to town and helping me get an apartment. I got a better job, and that's when I met my husband, Max, and that's when life got much better.
And you immediately shared with him.
I did share with him. I didn't share all the details. I think I just told him it happened, wasn't any big deal, just kind of swept it under, didn't want to talk about it. I think over the next 4 or 5 years we might have discussed it 3 or 4 times. And
But still, there was a lot going on inside of you.
There was
I'm
a
sure.
lot, and I had pushed a lot of things down. I mean, there were a lot of things that I thought if I just didn't think about it, then it would be okay. Until one morning, I was taking a shower, getting ready to go to work, and I had a flash, a visual flash of me walking out of the bowling alley with that man. And it was storming that day, which I have been terrified of storms ever since. I didn't put all of that together until, you know, further on down the road. But I got out, I stepped out of the shower, and there was a piece of paper sitting on my vanity, and I wrote exactly what I saw in the flash. And I put it away, and then over the next few weeks, I had more flashbacks. I was having nightmares.
Now, how many years had passed since?
It had been about 10 years.
About 10 years. Okay. So it took it that long to finally start coming out.
It started coming out, and I just started writing. I just started writing everything. I didn't know why I was writing, but I knew within myself that there was a purpose, and that it was very important that I wrote down every raw feeling that I had, every hurdle that I got past, how I got past it. I journaled everything. And
can that be found in this book?
It is in the book.
Okay.
Yes, it is in the book.
Now, is there any support group here in this area for rape victims?
The Domestic Violence Prevention does have a sexual assault hotline, and I haven't been associated with them since I've been at the ranch because of the time that it takes. You know, I used to volunteer for the Rape Crisis Center, and when I went to work at the ranch, because it's a 24/7, I had to let that volunteer work go. But when I was there, they did have groups where they would meet, and there's a counselor, you know, that will counsel with women, and of course there's the hotline that they can call the hotline and get counseling.
I know you mentioned that you did call and report it, but then you called and canceled that.
Yes, I told them I did not want to
Is
press
that
charges.
still, I know I've always heard it's very common that it's not reported. Do you think that's still the case?
I believe that's absolutely true. I believe there's a lot that are not reported, and I think it's for the same reason that I dropped the charges. You know,
your boyfriend.
Yes, people are not going to believe me. You know, and a lot of times when it happens, even if you're in a place in your life where, you know, you have control in other aspects, there's just something there that just makes you believe that either you're not going to be believed, or it's going to be so excruciating to go through a trial, you know, that people are going to know every intimate detail. And at that point in my life, I didn't want anybody else to know. It was just such a shameful thing that I did not want anything else to know.
So these feelings that you were writing down whenever you'd have these are they in this book?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The book is exactly, I mean, I went back and kind of pre-wrote before each chapter, but it's basically my journal. I mean, I found a publishing company that would not change anything. I wanted it. It was very important to me that whoever reads that book reads exactly what I went through and exactly how God got me through it, because that's exactly how they're going to be feeling.
So, now, how has this affected your marriage, your raising your children? Do you feel like that it's played a role in how you've dealt with things over the years in your family life?
I think it has. I'm a very, very overprotective mother, very overprotective. And for years, I was a safety freak. I mean, doors, I lock the doors on my car before I even shut the door. You know, Hunter can't go outside and play unless I'm right there watching him, or, you know, I would rather him be inside, you know, or, yes.
It just manifests itself in different ways. Well, did this person ever do this again that you know of?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I found out later. I always wondered if, it kind of haunted me for a long time, because I took a lot of that responsibility on myself, that because I didn't press charges and bring him to justice, that he was going to be able to do it again. And years later, I went down and got a copy of his police report. I got mine too, but I got his police report, and he did. I was not the first, and I was not the last. So,
was he ever locked up?
He's been in and out of jail. The last time I checked, which was a couple of years ago, he was not in jail, but not living here. He doesn't live here anymore.
Now, you mentioned that God, you know, helped get you through this.
Yes.
What was that a really important role? I'm sure
It was
was.
the most important role. That is the only reason that I was able to get through even the journaling process. You know, and I don't know that I realized it at the time as much as when I went back and, you know, when I completed that process and I could look back and see, you know, that there is absolutely nothing that I can do or can have done to me that can block the love that God has for me, and nothing can block the plan that He has for me. And so that was an important reason in publishing the book for myself, and I have such a deep desire in my heart for everyone else to know that too, that I'm not anyone special. I'm an ordinary person living in a supernatural life with Jesus Christ, and He's no respecter of person. He's got the same thing for everybody. It's available to everybody.
That's right. And you know, this is a prime example of something horrible happening, and the Lord has taken it and made good out of it.
Yes. And I struggled a long time with that, why God allowed that to happen to me. And I write about this in the book too, because for years I believe I was under a false belief of thinking that He chose me. And I even thanked Him for choosing me for a while to go, that I was so strong, you know, that He knew I was so strong that I could get through this so that I could help other people. And, you know, I'm not that special. You know, He did not choose this to happen to me. That the enemy, who some people will allow the enemy to so possess their lives, and that's why this man was able to do this.
And contrary to what your boyfriend thought,
exactly,
you didn't choose it either.
That's exactly right. I didn't choose it. But when I gave it to the Lord, He's using it.
That's right, and He's using it for this book. It's called Familiar Stranger, Journal of a Rape Survivor. And where can you order it online?
Right now it's available at just about all, Amazon.com, BooksAMillion.com, BarnesandNoble.com. It's available online. I'm working really hard to get it in bookstores, especially here in my town.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Tina, thank you so much for coming. And I know it's not easy for you, but I'm sure you're helping a lot of survivors through the book and through interviews like this.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
That's Heart to Heart for this week. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, and from all of us at Beach Street First Baptist Church and KLFI TV, have a fantastic week, and may God bless.